undertaking a national dialogue. On the economic front, we have built a resilient and diverse economy. Over the past 5 years, we have doubled our cultivated land, increasing crop production to nearly 700 million quintals, with the wheat accounting for 40% of this total. These efforts have strengthened food security and driven rural development. Today, Ethiopia is the largest wheat producer in Africa. Thank you. Through collective efforts, we have reduced external debt by over 50%, double both GDP and GDP per capita, and tripled government revenue in 5 years, with an 8.1% growth reported in the most recent fiscal year. Across the country, our major cities are evolving into dynamic, culturally rich, and sustainable hubs. In education, we have established 40,000 kindergartens and primary schools to boost early childhood education. Additionally, we have launched a program to train 5 million coders to strengthen our digital economy. Furthermore, we strive to honor our heritage by restoring national sites, developing tourist destinations, and reclaiming cultural artifacts, fulfilling our duty as the guardians of our nation's treasures. These accomplishments reflect the unwavering spirit and resilience of the Ethiopian people and underscore our firm commitment to advancing Ethiopia's future. With its focus on unity, cooperation, innovation, and shared progress, Madamar can serve as a guiding framework for our Pan-African agenda. By embracing its principles, we can forge a path toward a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all Africans. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us march forward with determination, harnessing the limitless potential of our continent and its people. The time is now to claim our future, build a legacy of equality and prosperity, and secure dignity for all. Let us be the generation that unites the continent and our diaspora in a shared vision of justice, prosperity, and peace. To conclude, I thank our outgoing chairperson, President Muhammad Ould, for his leadership and representing our organization on the global stage. Allow me to also warmly congratulate our newly chairperson, President Joao Lorenzo, and wish him success during his tenure. I would also like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed for his exemplary leadership as chairperson of the African Union Commission over the past 8 years. Throughout his tenure, His Excellency Musa Faki has shown unwavering commitment to Africa's development, peace, and integration, significantly strengthening the African Union's role in addressing the continent's challenge. I also extend my sincere thanks to him for being a steadfast friend of Ethiopia, supporting us not only during our times of success, but also in our moments of difficulty. Thank you, my brother. As we bid farewell to His Excellency Musa Faki, it is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to our incoming chairperson of the African Union Commission here in Ethiopia. I am confident that under his leadership, we will continue to make great strides toward achieving our collective goals. I wish him every success during his mandate. Thank you for your attention, and I wish us all a fruitful summit. God bless Ethiopia. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement, and thank you for the generous hospitality extended to our Excellencies, heads of states and governments, as well as distinguished delegates. Thank you. And now allow me to invite with great honor and pleasure His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Excellences, Monsieur Mohamed Ould-Cheikh Al-Ghazouani, Président de la République islamique de Mauritanie, Président en exercice de l'Union africaine, Excellence Dr Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République d'Éthiopie, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État, de gouvernement et de délégation, Excellences, Monsieur Mahmoud Abbas, Président de l'État de Palestine, ma très chère sœur amie Mia, Premier ministre de Barbados, Excellence, Monsieur Antonio Guterres, Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Docteur Nkosazana Zuma, ancienne présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Madame la vice-présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les commissaires, Mesdames et Messieurs les secrétaires généraux et exécutifs des communautés économiques régionales et mécanismes régionaux, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs exécutifs des organes et institutions spécialisées de l'Union africaine, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs de missions diplomatiques, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs. C'est à la fois avec un grand honneur et un immense plaisir que je m'adresse à vous aujourd'hui pour la dernière fois en ma qualité de président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Je voudrais tout d'abord, puisque nous sommes encore au début de l'année nouvelle 2025, présenter à vos excellences, vos familles et vos peuples, au nom de tous les personnels de l'Union africaine, mes meilleurs vœux de santé, de prospérité et de succès. Je voudrais aussi exprimer mes sincères remerciements aux présidents en exercice avec lesquels j'ai successivement travaillé ces 8 dernières années. J'ai nommé dans l'ordre de leur présidence Alpha Condé, Paul Kagame, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Cyril Ramaphosa, Antoine Félix Tshisekedi, Macky Sall, Azali Assoumani et Mohamed Ould-Cheikh Al-Ghazouani. En cet instant de remembrance, je ne peux oublier le président Idriss Déby Itnou, paix à son âme, qui, en africaniste convaincu, a eu l'initiative de ma candidature à la tête de la commission et qui s'est investi sans compter pour un tel destin pour moi. Sa mort tragique a été ma plus atroce douleur de ce double mandat. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, 8 ans se sont écoulés depuis mon élection fin janvier 2017 comme président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. En ce moment chargé d'historicité, de signification et de symboles, je voudrais m'acquitter du devoir moral de vous présenter les grandes lignes du bilan de ce double mandat. Grâce à ces parcours, je me suis profondément imprégné à la fois de ce qui fait la grandeur et le rayonnement de notre continent, de notre organisation continentale, ainsi que des pesanteurs et limites diverses ayant entraîné le rythme de nos cadences. J'ai sillonné ce beau et fantastique continent. J'éprouve une profonde fierté d'avoir visité au moins une fois tous les 55 membres de notre Union. L'opportunité que m'offre ce moment est historique et unique. J'y tenterai de m'acquitter de la double obligation de rendre compte et de m'interroger sur quelques problématiques en ayant bien conscience qu'il ne faut absolument pas abuser de votre temps si précieux. Un rapport consolidé de notre bilan et un rapport annuel vous ont été distribués conformément à notre réglementation. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, les rapides et intenses bouleversements géopolitiques qui ont caractérisé le contexte international durant mes deux mandats ont eu des manifestations à la fois violentes et déstabilisatrices. La subite dégradation de la situation sanitaire consécutive au déclenchement de la Covid-19 s'est accompagnée malheureusement d'importants chocs et de profondes turbulences économiques et diplomatiques. Pour l'Afrique, cela s'est traduit par une aggravation du poids de la dette, de la baisse des flux d'investissement publics et privés, de la violence et de la prégnance de certains conflits africains, de l'affaissement du panafricanisme et des chaînes de solidarité africaines, des manifestations d'obsolescence des institutions africaines, des appétits extérieurs en Afrique, des déficiences patentes en matière de gouvernance et de leadership en Afrique et même dans le monde, de la crise du multilatéralisme post-seconde guerre mondiale, etc., etc. La guerre russo-ukrainienne, enclenchée en février 2022, est venue noircir davantage ces tableaux, annonçant une recomposition géopolitique mondiale. Est née une ligne de fracture qui a suscité une forme de bipolarité qui, dans les imaginaires politiques, évoque la réalité pourtant théoriquement dépassée de la guerre froide. Des incertitudes profondes sur la soutenabilité de la paix et de la coopération internationale ont empoisonné les esprits, assombri les consciences et ont renforcé le pessimisme, les égoïsmes et le pragmatisme mercantile. Les conséquences de cette guerre ont profondément affecté l'Afrique, qui importait l'essentiel de sa consommation céréalière et ses intrants agricoles de ces deux pays, la Russie et l'Ukraine. Le spectre de l'insécurité alimentaire et sanitaire a plané sur bien de nos pays, dont un bon nombre continue de souffrir de leur fragilité structurelle. أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي السادة سيداتي وسادتي، وفي الشرق الأوسط فإن الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق عانى ويعاني أبشع أنواع الظلم في التاريخ البشري. إن الحرب الفظيعة والجائرة التي دمرت كل شيء في فلسطين وخاصة
Gaza to deprive this people of its fundamental rights to independence, peace, existence, and to life in an indescribable shame for the whole of mankind. In spite of all this, these valiant Palestinian people remained stoic, and the African Union remained firmly by the side of the Palestinian people. I want to express to our brother Abu Mazen Mahmoud Ramadan our solidarity. This apocalyptic landscape that Palestine, the Gaza Strip, and its population, in particularly after more than a year of war, destroying all forms of life and property, continues to unfold in almost total silence of the powers of the world, except for the call by some for the systematic deportation of Palestinians from their lens, it is really adding insult to injury. This unprecedented tragedy weighs heavily despite the ceasefire and the release of hostages and prisoners facilitated by Qatar, Egypt and the USA on the universal conscience and deeply questions our humanity. The stronghold of increased, stifling, dehumanized globalization does not leave Africa outside the hegemonic struggles that are taking place far from its land. On the contrary, the continent is suffering from the excesses and fragmentations reflected in proximity conflicts, barely veiled support from external powers from the warring parties on the continent, the expansion of terrorism and violent extremism, the continuation of the devastating war in the Sudan, in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, the divisions of Libya, whose reconciliation charter was signed and adopted yesterday, and I would like to congratulate you, President Sassou Nguesso. Tensions of all kinds in the Sahel, in the Lake Chad Basin, in the Gulf of Guinea, in Mozambique, in the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region are another part of the unsmoldering string of African crises. The flow of political, economic, environmental refugees and other internally displaced persons is exacerbating the already fragile security, food and health situation in many member states. It is this seriously degraded global and regional context that we have been facing over the past 8 years of the development of our action. Excellency Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ladies and gentlemen, the institutional reform of our Union, which began in 2017, aimed at establishing the optimal condition to guarantee the efficient pursuit of the programs included in our strategic doctrinal guiding compass Agenda 2063 for the purpose of better resistance to the challenges that were identified. In this regard, the reconfiguration of the leadership, a staff performance evaluation process, closer cooperative relationship between the African Union and the regional economic communities and the regional mechanisms enacted by a new protocol, the institutionalization of a coordination summit dedicated to integration, the establishment of the technical groups R10 and N15, responsible to ensuring the quality of human resources recruited and compliance with the golden rules of budgetary, financial and accounting management principles of the African Union have been the salient features of this reform. And but is without any complacency, we'll have a new institutional map of the Union. I'm here stressing three of these organs: the Pan-African Parliament, the Peace and Security Council, and the Permanent Representatives Committee. The overall movement of the reform, with its shadows and lights, confirms its relevance and its necessary progressive nature to be deployed over the long term. It is a requirement for the perpetual adaptation of the structures of our Union to the developments that characterize the world. I would like to thank President Paul Kagame and President William Ruto for their remarkable efforts to move this reform forward. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, an assessment of the first 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063, covering the period 2014 to 2023, reveals the sectoral progress made in our march towards building the Africa that we want. It is crucial to learn the real lesson and make the appropriate subsequent adjustments. In the field of health, it is a holistic approach translated on the ground into actions crowned with success. With the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, Africa CDC established itself as the most effective instrument in the fight of all diseases. The worrying issue of health financing continues to be a source of concern for us. Two mechanisms for financing universal health coverage and combating malnutrition on the continent have been designed. Thanks to the African Veterinary Vaccine Center, PANVAC, whose new vaccine production laboratory was inaugurated in February 2024, significant progress has been made in the areas of livestock, animal health, and socio-economic development. The African Medicines Agency, AMA, has begun setting up its headquarters in Kigali and its activities on the launching pad. The traditional medicine has benefited from the development of two 10-year plans of action, the last one running from 2025 to 2035. The field of education has been driven by the desire to design a new educational system according to Mauritania in cooperation with the African Union Commission and other partners, including UNICEF and UNESCO in particular. The centrality of gender and youth issues have been affirmed. The special envoys for women and youth have established themselves well in the institutional universe of the leadership of the organization. Throughout the 8 years of these two terms, many other crucial areas engaged the attention they deserved due to their importance for the socio-economic development of Africa. Whether it is our vision on mining issues, the blue economy, the development of infrastructure and energy, climate change with adaptation and climate resilience of the continent, regional integration through the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the effective operationalization of the Peace Fund, which has exceeded the set target of $400 million, the treatment of humanitarian crisis of which Africa is the epicenter, with the establishment of the African Humanitarian Agency, the strengthening of the visibility of the African Union through our partnership with the United Nations, all have been at the center of our collective endeavor. I would like to seize this opportunity to pay special tribute to a major architect of this partnership. I'm here referring to Antonio Guterres, a great friend of Africa. Thank you, Antonio. The membership of the African Union, the G20, and the BRICS, of which several African countries are members, have crowned this visibility. On all these issues, the specialized structure of the African Union and the member states have carried out in-depth discussions and outlined clear prospects for some and given concrete form to many others. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a few months ago I sent to Your Excellencies a letter relating to some urgent issues at the heart of the future of our Union and its capacity to attain as best as possible our objectives. I'm here thinking first of the Peace and Security Council, which I mentioned earlier on, and its role should be carried out on the basis of texts that govern its function, its operation, from which it draws the strength and legitimacy to design, supervise the pressing issues of our collective security and impose, if necessary, the required sanctions. It is very regrettable that its decisions are sometimes contrary to our own principles, and when they are not, often remain dead letters. The decision of this central continental organ cannot be considered in a casual manner, nor by bias the concept and practice of these regional economic communities in the name of the hackneyed principle of subsidiarity interpreted in a self-interest and partisan manner. The mentioning of the PSC brings forth the issue of unconstitutional changes of government. In this regard, I mention in the said letter that we have only two options henceforth. Either abandon the principles that currently govern this issue or apply them seriously. Notwithstanding the fact that we can revise them, adapt them to the new realities, I think for our own credibility, we should continue to establish these principles like a litany while trampling on them and accepting their flagrant and constant violation. There is nothing that eats more into our credibility than such an attitude, which was recently led to a real distrust in the rules and principles and weakened integration in part of the continent. I am here mentioning the persistent and paralyzing slump of our unbearable division in terms of representation in relation to our so-called strategic partnerships. I drew attention, and I draw again attention here, to choose one of the two options that are presented to us and which I presented in clear terms in my letter. I had also mentioned the recurring issue of the financing of our organization, which paradoxically contrasts with the continuing trends of multiplication of organs without any concern for how to finance them. An independent organization and guardian of our freedom and sovereignty cannot be built with the finances and resources by others. I had also raised the depriving reduction of the initiatives of the chairperson of the African Union Commission and called for its harmonization with the legal and customary obligations that are now imposed on him. In short, the sense of my correspondence is very simple and maybe brutal. It is the question of placing our organization worthily or not before a terrible combination of factors of complexity. These are all the problems that you are facing today that I wanted to raise very modestly in my letter. Are we finally going to open our eyes to the fate of our organization, or are we continue to let it lament and moan? Excellency, Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a commonplace truth today to affirm that the concepts and legal instruments serving as a framework of analyzing the dynamics of contemporary international politics are outdated. They have lost their both structuring and explanatory virtue of current global phenomena. Such an observation explains why the debates today focus on the modalities for the advent of a new global economic and political governance. Africa cannot remain silent and inactivity. It must imperatively throw itself into the battle to carve out its own place in the configuration currently being designed. It is not easy. It will require ingenuity, creativity, method, and courage. More generally, this will require real redemption for an awakening of the consciousness and conscience of the soul of Pan-Africanism, that of our awareness of our Africanity, that of the pride of our Africanity, that of the commitment to our Africanity, that of the rejection of our depersonalization and our nihilistic servility of our identity and our being. This is what African youth are calling for us to do. They are the majority in all our states and are becoming increasingly demanding. Their voices are resonating louder and louder thanks to the new forms of communication that amplify all expressions. African youth are constantly challenging us and putting us on trial for being out of step with their aspirations, which are that of an Africa that is open to itself, united, sovereign in its policies and choices, standing and interdependent. This solidarity has always been our lifeline in the fight against colonialism and apartheid and the completion of our independence. We have just paid tribute to the memory of a great combatant, Sam Nujoma. This should bring something and click something in our minds. Our solidarity should galvanize our consciences, our wills and our intelligence to lead us to a more promising common destiny. There are no other new path for, and to give substance to the aspirations of our youth, our fellow citizens and our diaspora. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am leaving my office definitively in a few days. I confess that I feel overwhelmed by a sweet feeling of freedom that allows me to say a few words from the bottom of my heart. The first is a word of deep gratitude to Your Excellencies for the trust that you have placed in me by electing me for 2 successive terms as the chairperson of the African Union Commission. You must rest assured that I have measured and I continue to measure all the dimensions of this trust and the heavy weight of subsequent gratitude and acknowledgement. The second word concerns the other one and me. In the other one, I'm thinking of our partners, especially those who have offered a sincere friendship and mutually beneficial cooperation. I want to thank them all and express our gratitude. I am also thinking of you present here, those who have left us also for different reasons. You have realized good and great things, and above all, as far as possible, respected a certain ethic and a line of conduct that we have believed to be consistent with our principles. Please accept my full gratitude. The members of the African Union Commission are the men and women that have worked very often in the shadows with diligence, dedication, discipline and talent. I would like to pay tribute to them, the tribute that they deserve. The third word relates to my own limitations. I wanted so much to do quickly and better during the 2 terms that you entrusted to me. I know that I have not done everything. Perhaps I underestimated the burden of the task and the weight of the constraints. I know that I may have made mistakes. I should not say perhaps, but I should say certainly I've made mistakes. Maybe here and there I have weakened and made mistakes and missed opportunities to do better. I would like to apologize and ask forgiveness if my shortcomings have caused any individual or collective harm. The fourth word relates to my feelings at the moment. I am happy to regain my freedom, but I know that we'll also have the nostalgia of the places, the women and men whom I have known, for the Ethiopian people, with their age-old civilization. To you, my brother, dear brother Abiy Ahmed, Amasaganalo. Maybe we'll have time to write the history of all this tangle of feelings and sensations. Finally, my fifth word is that of my oath to continue to think of Africa, to serve Africa, to dream for its youth for whom we have not done enough and for whom we must do a lot, because after all, it is they who count today and more so tomorrow. A final word to you, Mr. President, Chairperson, and Mr. President, dear brother Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, to tell you how much I appreciated your close relation throughout your mandate. You have been a master of wisdom, civic-mindedness and loftiness, inspiring in all respects. To you, Mr. President, and dear brother Joao Lourenço, and I would like to stress that the quiet strength that you symbolize reassures me about a chairmanship of seriousness and substance. May you both in particular, and all of us, have an active thought for the great prisoner of the Sahel, President Mohamed Bazoum, whose interminable detention is not justified. He must be released unconditionally. I wish full success to our summit. I wish full success to our next leadership. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for your statement. Thank you for your unwavering commitment. Thank you for dedication towards Africa's peace, development, and unity. Thank you very much. I will now have the honor to invite His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine,
The chairperson,
protocol observed. President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, thank you for your leadership in the outstanding exercise of your mandate. Presidente João Lourenço,
President John Lourenço, I commend you and I look forward for the opportunity to work with you as a new chair of the Union.
I also want to give a very special expression of gratitude to the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki, for his 8 years of strong and permanent commitment to multilateralism and impeccable cooperation with the United Nations. Cher Moussa,
dear Moussa, working with you was a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor.
Excellencies, the partnership between the African Union and the United Nations has never been stronger. Together, we see an Africa booming with hope and possibility. You have a booming, enterprising population, including the largest number of young people in the world. The African continental free trade is poised to turbocharge the region's economy, and calls to address the legacies of colonialism and slavery are growing louder, as reflected in your team this year, and as reflected in the leadership of so many passionate voices for the liberation of Africa, such as the great Dr. Sam Nujoma of Namibia, whose life we celebrate and whose loss we mourn. The world must never forget that Africa is the victim of two colossal and compounded injustices. First, the profound impact of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. The roots stretch back centuries, and the bitter fruit continues to affect Africans and people of African descent to this day. Decolonization alone in itself was not a panacea. Political independence did not free countries from structures based on exploitation and decades of economic, social, and institutional underinvestment. It is high time for reparatory justice frameworks to be put in place. Second, Africa was under colonial domination when today's multilateral system was created, and that injustice endures. Look no further than the United Nations Security Council. There is no excuse that Africa still lacks permanent representation in the 21st century. I will keep working with the African Union and all member states to ensure the representation Africa needs and the justice you deserve, including with 2 permanent members of the Security Council. And we will keep pressing together for an international financial architecture that is no longer outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair. Correcting age-old injustices is essential to address here and now challenges. And the good news is that we have many of the solutions we need. Last year, you helped drive that effort at the United Nations with the Pact for the Future. And I thank Africa for its support that was vital to approve the pact. Our task now is to make those commitments a reality. South Africa's G20 chairmanship could not come at a better time. Let me point to 4 areas for action. First, we must push for peace, security, and alleviating appalling levels of human suffering. Sudan is being torn apart before our eyes and is now home to the world's largest displacement crisis and famine. As we near the holy months of Ramadan, it is time for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And the international community must come together to stop the flow of weapons and the bankrolling of bloodshed. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Congolese people have been suffering yet again from a brutal cycle of violence. And the fighting that is raging in South Kivu as a result of the continuation of the M23 offensive threatens to push the entire region over the precipice. Regional escalation must be avoided at all costs. There is no military solution. The deadlock must end, the dialogue must begin, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the DRC must be respected. The conclusions of the recent joint EAC-SADC summit offer a way forward, with a renewed call for an immediate ceasefire and new momentum for regional efforts based on the Luanda and Nairobi processes. Now is the time for swift implementation. And you can count on the continued support of the United Nations, including MONUSCO. In the Sahel, the clear and present threat of terrorism is undermining peace, security, and sustainable development. And in Somalia, we are urging predictable funding for the African Union support and stabilization mission, and I hope that our voice will be heard by the Security Council. And as we gather here in Africa, I know all our minds are also very much on Gaza. A resumption of hostilities must be avoided at all costs. The Palestinian people have suffered too much. I welcome efforts by the parties to abide by the ceasefire agreement and urge action for a permanent ceasefire and the release of all hostages. Peace is possible in the Middle East, and that starts with tangible, irreversible, and permanent progress towards the two-state solution, Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security. Excellencies, on all fronts, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the African Union to advance security, stability, human rights, and rule of law. Excellencies, second, we must keep working together to deliver the AU 2063 agenda and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and drive action on finance. African countries pay up to 8 times more to borrow than developed countries, and 20 are in or at risk of debt distress. The Pact for the Future supports an international financial architecture reform to reflect today's economy, ensuring fair representation and urging effective action on debt relief. And I will stand with Africa as a matter of justice and to right the historic wrongs. Excellencies, third, the climate crisis. Climate disasters are tearing across Africa, destroying lives, upending livelihoods, devastating economies, and inflaming conflict. At the same time, the renewables revolution is unstoppable, and Africa is poised to become a global clean energy powerhouse. Yet, today, Africa receives just 2% of global renewables investments. Realizing Africa's potential requires access to affordable finance, including by implementing the COP29 finance decision fully and on time, and supporting development of a roadmap to realize $1.3 trillion a year. Excellencies, Africa has contributed little to the climate crisis, yet is paying the price with record droughts, floods, and heat. Climate justice requires a massive investment in adaptation, with the international community bearing an enormous responsibility. Developed countries must double adaptation finance, and countries must significantly boost the loss and damage fund. Allow me a note. When the loss and damage fund was created, the pledging conference that took place has allowed for an amount that is equivalent at the highest contract for a basketball player in the United States. It is absolutely necessary to make the loss and damage fund an effective instrument to support developing countries in adaptation. And we also need justice when it comes to your abundant critical minerals. Too often, your countries are plundered, bound to the bottom of value chains as others grow rich on your resources. The work of the United Nations panel on critical energy transition minerals is designed to help embed justice, sustainability, and human rights across the value chain. Africa's minerals must benefit Africa's people.
Excellencies, finally, we need to act on the new technologies, including artificial intelligence. Almost 2/3 of all Africans have no reliable internet access. We have a historic responsibility to ensure AI benefits humanity, not just a privilege for few. The Global Digital Pact shares the ambitions of the African Digital Compact: universal connectivity, capacity building, and responsible AI governance. I will share a model on capacity building so as to assist the Global South to use AI for the common good. Together, let's ensure these commitments are honored. Excellencies, the United Nations and the African Union stand united in our determination to deliver justice for your continent, leaving no one behind. We have much to build upon, so together, let's make commitments reality. And once again, let me say something in my mother tongue and say with one voice, Viva Africa.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement. We highly appreciate your leadership in strengthening the African Union-United Nations partnership. Thank you. As-Sayyidat wa Sada.
Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, I'm very happy and honored to welcome today His
تفضلوا مشكورين بإلقاء كلمتكم.
the state of Palestine. You have the floor, Excellency. Excellency Mohammed Wild El Ghazouani, President of the Republic of Mauritania and the Chairman of the African Union. Excellency Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Mr. Abiy Ahmed, Excellency Moussa Faki, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. At the outset, I wish to extend our congratulations to Excellency President João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, for becoming the chairperson of the African Union for the year 2025. We wish him full success. We extend our thanks to His Excellency President Mohammed Wild El Ghazouani for his chairmanship of the previous session of the African Union. I'm very happy to meet once again with you and on behalf of the Palestinian people, who have a great deal of esteem to the people and the leaders of African states. We are proud of our friendship with them. They have always provided to us a faithful support to our just struggle for freedom and independence. Heads of state and delegation. At the time when we are working with countries in the world and international organizations to consolidate the ceasefire and provide more humanitarian assistance, and at a time when the state of Palestine is fulfilling its mission in the Gaza Strip to assist the refugees and to go back to their areas and to provide the living conditions for our people, and to, as we are preparing for the reconstruction, we hear calls for deporting our people from their lands and affecting the sovereignty of other countries. These calls are meant to distract the world from the war crimes and the genocide and the destruction in Gaza, in addition to the crimes of colonization and the settlers grab land and annexation, in addition to attacks against holy shrines in the occupied territories and Jerusalem. These are carried out by the forces of occupation and the gangs of settlers. The aim is to destroy the possibility of a two-state solution for the Palestinian cause. Today, more than 2,300,000 people live in Gaza, including 1,500,000 refugees, 1,500,000 refugees who were forced to leave their country in 1948. They suffered from more than 50 massacres by the terrorist Zionist gangs. The only place they can go back to is their cities and villages from which they were expelled during the Nakba. In implementation of UN Resolution 194, which calls for the return of Palestinian refugees to the cities and the villages from which they were deported, and that they would be compensated for the harm they suffered. We reaffirm our complete rejection for all the calls aimed at deporting the Palestinian people from its land. This will keep the region in the cycle of violence instead of going to peace creation. It is an illusion for people to believe that they can have a new century agreement or to deport our people by occupying our land. In this regard, we hail the positions of the countries that rejected the calls for deporting our people from their land and stood by our side to defend their rights. We highly hail the position of the African Union and its member states in this regard. The Israeli colonial practices mean that we need to have an urgent action by the international community and the Security Council before the forces of radicalism disseminate to kill the two-state solution. Heads of state and delegation, the Palestinian cause is the cause of a people seeking freedom and independence. Our commitment to international legality and the side agreements, including the implementation of the vision based on a two-state solution, mean that we need to end the Israeli occupation that occupies with military power the land of the state of Palestine and its Al-Quds, the eastern part of Al-Quds. There is the UN Resolution 338, also UN Resolution 242, and the Arab Peace Initiative, whose aim is to enable the people of the region to live in peace and security. All of this in implementation of the consultative opinion of the International Court of Justice, which has stipulated the illegality of occupation and that it should be ended in 12 months. This was decided by the International Court of Justice. There's also the decision by the UN General Assembly and the call for a conference that will take place in Geneva next month. I call upon the AU member states on this occasion to participate in this important conference. Heads of government and delegation, the achievement of peace and security requires from all of us to effectively participate in the global alliance to implement the two-state solution and to support the international conference for peace that will take place in the United Nations by the middle of next June. Under the dual chairmanship of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and France. This will be an opportunity to mobilize international resources for the international recognition of the State of Palestine and to obtain our full membership in the United Nations. We have not been able to achieve this because of the vetoes of the United States. Our aim is to implement the two-state solution based on international legality. The holding of the AU summit and the theme of justice through compensation reflects your authentic commitment to justice as a universal human value. It is a commitment whose echoes are seen in your continuous support to the Palestinian people who are still suffering from the last form of colonization in the world. We are the only ones living under colonization. You lived under this colonization, but you were liberated. Finally, we reiterate our thanks to the African Union and the member states for their continued support to the struggle of the Palestinian people to cherish their freedom and independence. And we wish your summit full success and more prosperity for the African people and their free peoples. Thank you very much for your attention.
Shukran.
Thank you, Excellency President of the State of Palestine, Abu Mazen, for your statement. Your participation, Mr. President, confirms the continued support of the African Union to the Palestinian cause, full support.
We invite His Excellency Muhammad Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, to deliver his opening remarks. Excellency.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة على سيدنا محمد. أصحاب الفخامة.
Excellencies, heads of state and government, Excellency Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, Mrs. Mia Mutli, heads of government and delegation, Excellencies, Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, dear guests. At the outset, I wish to extend my thanks to the government and the people of Ethiopia for the efforts made to hold this summit. We thank them for the support and the hospitality accorded to us in this beautiful city of Addis Ababa, which saw the establishment of our organization as inspired prophesied by the founding fathers, to have an Africa that is peaceful and united. I'm very happy to reiterate my thanks to my brothers, the presidents of the member states of the African Union, for the honor bestowed in me for chairing this organization throughout my mandate. I also extend my thanks to the presidents of countries and who are with us to attend this important meeting at the beginning of 2025. This year raises a number of questions. Thank you, Excellencies, heads of government. My chairmanship of the African Union has taken place at an international period that is highly sensitive. This also coincided by our adoption of the second decade plan within the framework of Agenda 2063. It represents a plan for development for member states and the regional economic communities and the various organs of the African Union. By adopting this decade plan, we can see our solid commitment to meet the aspirations of our peoples to have the Africa that we all want, in spite of the obstacles and in spite of all the challenges. And these challenges are tremendous. When I became the chairperson of the African Union, I was fully aware of the volume of the commitment and the responsibility. Today, our world is witnessing various crises. These crises where we have more areas of conflict and tensions have jeopardized relations between countries. They have also jeopardized the values on which the world system has been established since the Second World War. After a particular period of the development of international organizations and our belief in a more just world, the references went back and hopes collapsed, and now there is a revision of the international system in a way and that the contours are not clear. For a number of years, unfortunately, bloodshed continues. Many people found themselves in difficult humanitarian situations. The world has witnessed a level of violence unprecedented since the Second World War. Palestine is what Palestine is facing is a good example of this. This global situation is made more complex and complicated by the wars in Africa. These crises, global and continental, have had a negative impact on the efforts of development in our continent, where there are tremendous challenges such as poverty, unemployment, and the weakness of health systems and the weak economic structures, in addition to the impact of climate change, the dissemination of terrorism. All of this is having an impact on peace and security. It is destroying the social fabric of our communities. In my previous speech, I committed myself to work on these challenges, and I worked during my term on respecting the rules and regulations of the African Union. All of this in full harmony with the AU Commission and the regional economic communities and the regional organs. Our aim was to consolidate the efforts of peace and to reach peace on the basis of dialogue by supporting the valuable efforts made by Excellency Ngasso, President Ngasso, at the head of the African High-Level Committee on Libya. I also continued work with President Paul Kagame and President Tshisekedi to deal with the situation in Eastern DRC. In 2024, Mauritania hosted the third meeting to consolidate the peace initiative in Sudan. We also met General Al-Burhan on the 13th and the 14th of January 2025, and the aim was to end the hostilities in Sudan and to protect its peoples and territories. In spite of the efforts made by the Union and the regional economic communities and the member states, the establishment of comprehensive peace in our continent remains to be achieved. Therefore, I call for the implementation of the decisions made by the Malabo decisions in 2022 on the basis of the work of the PSC. And this can be done at 4 levels: harmonization, financial sustainability. All of this will meet the ongoing security challenges. All of this will enable us the possibility to explore more effective solutions to achieve peace and security. We need to identify the appropriate mechanisms that should enable us to settle the challenges of peace and security. In this context, we need the efforts of each one of us as part of a collective effort in order to meet these challenges. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we gave a great deal of attention to the agenda of development during our term. We endeavored to mobilize resources by organizing or participating in a number of meetings. We organized with His Excellency Samuel Ruto in the Nairobi summit to support the resource mobilization. We consolidated this with our work with President Hassan Ouattara on the occasion of the economic summit held in Abidjan. This represented a landmark in resource mobilization for our organization. The efforts of support have led to renewing the mobilization of resources. We also participated in the work of the to mobilize more resources from Korea for the benefit of development. The volume reached for Africa from $5.5 billion to $10 billion, in addition to $14 billion to finance exports for countries investing in our continent, in addition to the 4th edition of the China-Africa Summit at the level of the heads of state. China declared to devote $50 billion to boost development in our continent. In addition to the efforts made for resource mobilization, we endeavored during our participation in the 7th meeting in Italy and the BRICS meeting in Russia in October. Also in our meeting in Brazil in November 24, in addition to other events, we endeavored to solve the problem of debt by promoting development. We also called for the review of the support and we called for establishing a new charter for financing development that would be more flexible and sustainable and would lead to the mobilization of resources that are commensurate with development. We also called for a better implementation of plans by the multi-party financial organizations for the benefit of development and to implement our international agenda. In addition to resource mobilization, in order to promote development, we endeavored to turn our resources into an effective and sustainable development that can meet the faced challenges. These challenges have been worsened by the various crises. In this context, and in line with what was indicated, we called for a more flexibility to enable people to access education. In line with the theme for last year, we had this meeting in Mauritania in collaboration with the African Union. A continental meeting on education and employment of youth. This meeting was held in Nouakchott. The aim was to integrate youth and employment and to youth represent the majority of the people, and these youths face the dangers of violence, the radicalization and illegal migration. I call upon the summit to adopt the Nouakchott Declaration because it calls for a sustainable education to support peace and security and to create jobs and to reduce unemployment and precarity. African youths need an effective educational and training system. They also, like other African citizens, need health systems that enable them to have access to good quality health care. This will enable them to deal with the arising health issues as witnessed in our continent, such as the smallpox, cholera, and the like. In this context, I would like to hail the work carried out by the Africa Disease Center in dealing with the sudden health crisis. I congratulate Dr. Jankaya for the pioneering work done in this regard. Today, I will present a detailed report on this issue. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in line with the Dhaka Declaration on food security and the following, we held two exceptional meetings to consolidate the agricultural systems. The first meeting was held in Nairobi in May 2024. It dealt with soil and the use of fertilizers. And in January 25, there was also a meeting in Kampala to develop flexible agricultural systems. A strategy and an action plan were adopted in order to promote a comprehensive agricultural development for the years starting 2026. I invite the summit to adopt the declaration and the action plan, and the same applies to the declaration of Nairobi. The aim is to promote investment and develop agricultural industries. The focus on industry requires that we need to have an energy that is sufficient and at an acceptable cost. We held in Dar es Salaam with Her Excellency Samia Suluhu, and in coordination with the African Development Bank and the World Bank, in last January we held the African Summit on Energy. in order to promote access to electricity for millions of Africans in sub-Saharan countries. There were a number of energy pledges. In this regard, I call for extending our congratulations to the President of the African Development Bank and the President of the World Bank for their efforts to, within the framework of this ambitious partnership, to support development efforts in the continent. Energy plays an important role in dealing with climate challenges. These climate challenges have a major impact on our countries. There is the issue of global warming, and we need to deploy more efforts for the energy transformation. On your behalf, during the 29th session of the multi-party meeting on climate change, COP29, held in Baku in 2024, we called for the need for the international community to fulfill its commitment and to assist us in dealing with the negative impact of climate change. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the achievement of the second action plan to implement Agenda 2063 is closely related to the coordination between the AU and the regional economic communities. For this reason, in our mid-year coordinating committee in Accra, we focused on integrating our national plans in continental programs to achieve African complementarity and to make its voice heard. This common voice will enable us to have the position that should enable us to effectively participate in the development of international agenda that should focus on sensitive African issues. Therefore, in all these events, we defended the rights of the African continent in its representation in the Security Council. We also called for a review of the international rules of governance. Our efforts were positively met, and there were clear commitments to work on them in the various meetings. But the effectiveness of the follow-up and the joint African work mean that we need to continue the structural transformation of our continent. You all know the questions raised by the structural transformation, such as the principle of alternation and how this is implemented, in addition to the distribution of positions. Because of the sensitiveness of this issue, we held an extraordinary meeting of the Executive Council, during which there was a decision to see how we can apply the principle of alternation to have a just alternation between the regions. In line with this reformist spirit, we worked on the review of the skills within the African Union. An extraordinary meeting of the Executive Council was held in November 2024 to make a decision on the best ways to carry out this operation. Following extensive consultation, the Council identified solutions to this issue. It established a clear roadmap to continue this process. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in my initial speech, I emphasized the need to overcome the challenges, and I indicated that this could only be done by joint efforts on the basis of our common destiny. In order to achieve our noble objectives. Today, I reiterate the same issue as I hand over the chairmanship to His Excellency President João Lourenço, wishing him full success in the mission he is entrusted with. I express my readiness to continue with supporting him. I should seize this opportunity to extend my thanks to Moussa Faki Mohamed, the chairperson of the African Union Commission. I hail his leadership skills. I thank him for his valuable support during my term. I extend my thanks to the members of the African Union Commission and the various organs of the organization. I'm very proud for being able to serve my African continent and to be its voice in international meetings. I end my term fully convinced of the capacity of our continent to achieve the objectives of Agenda 2063. I'm more determined to work more effectively in this regard. I reiterate my congratulations to President João Lourenço. I wish him full success. I wish our summit full success. Long live the African Union. Long live Africa, independent and prosperous. I thank you very much for your attention.
شكرا فخامة الرئيس.
Thank you very much, President, for your statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, now allow me to invite His Excellency Ambassador Yusuf Mundoha Asumani, Ambassador of the Union of Comoros to Ethiopia and Permanent Representative to the African Union, Dean of the African Ambassadors in Ethiopia, to introduce the new Bureau of the African Union Assembly for this session. Your Excellency.
Thank you,
Excellency Mohamed Al-Ghazani, current President of the African Union and the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Your Excellency Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government of the African Union states, Your Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, Your Excellency the Vice President of Barbados, Prime Minister of Barbados, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Moussa Faki Mohamed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Deputy Secretary General of the Arab League of States, heads of delegations, excellencies, ambassadors, permanent representatives and observers of states, excellencies, commissioners, excellencies, head organs, invited guests, all protocols observed, Assalamu alaikum. I have the honor of introducing the Bureau of the Conference for 2025, Article 16 of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference. The Bureau is as follows. Chair, the Republic of Angola, Southern Region. First, the Republic of Burundi, Central Region. Second Vice Chair, the Republic of Ghana, Western Region. Third Vice Chair, Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Eastern Region. Apologies. Rapporteur, the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Northern Region, which is submitted for your approval.
Members of the Assembly, for having elected me at the head of the African Union as President for the period 2024-2025. Together, we have worked to advance the integration agenda on the continent. I wish to thank you for all the support and to thank you for the unflinching support that you gave me, contributing to the success of Mauritania and the entire continent in pursuing this lofty task. I will now call upon my brother, President João Lourenço, to hand over the baton, to him, and I wish him success in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now I have the honor to welcome His Excellency João Manuel Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, the new chairperson of the African Union, for the handover ceremony in the High Table. You are welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Your Excellency. Allow me now to call His Excellency João Manuel Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, Chairperson of the African Union, to deliver his acceptance speech. Your Excellency.
Bonsoir,
His Majesty Mswati III from the Kingdom of Eswatini. Your Majesty Letsi III from the Kingdom of Lesotho. Your Excellency Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and the outgoing President of the African Union. Excellencies, Heads of States and Government. Your Excellency Abiy Ahmed Ali, Prime Minister of the Democratic and Federal Republic of Ethiopia. Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of United Nations. Excellencies, representatives of heads of states and governments. Your Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Members, Excellencies, and President Mahmoud Abbas, President of the Palestinian Authority, and our guest of honor, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps accredited in Addis Ababa, ladies and gentlemen. I would like on the outset to deeply thank His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed from the Democratic and Federal Republic of Ethiopia and his people for once again, as it always the habit each year in February, that they host the most important meeting of the African Union. I would like to thank them for the warm welcome and hospitality that was accorded to us since our arrival in this beautiful country. I would also thank Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and the outgoing President of the African Union for the proactive way, dynamic and proactive way that he led our organization during his tenure. We were able to carry out through his mandate actions that contributed to the achievement of the main objective defined by our organization for the last year that just ended. And we also built educative systems that are strong to allow quality education for African citizens, taking into account the better performance of our continent at the global stage, taking into account the objectives of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union and Agenda 2030 of the United Nations. Excellencies, you are leaving us a great legacy. It's upon us now to continue to work and capitalize on your work that you living for us. And I count on your support and experience, as well as the support of all the other African countries, so that Angola can also undertake a presidency that will be at the level of our expectations, and that we can also add our efforts for the achievement of the development goals of our countries, together with the achievement of Agenda 2063 in all our efforts in building the Africa that we want. My thanks are also addressed to all the African countries, but more especially Southern region, for the trust entrusted to us in order to lead in 2025 the African Union, at a time when our continent is faced with major challenges related to peace and security, which are a blockage to many initiatives and actions that we want to undertake for the development of our nations. As you all know,
is the first time that Angola is assuming this major responsibility of leading the destiny of our continent in the coming 12 months. But we are going to look attentively to the problems of Africa, and we are going to contribute with our experience to finding solutions to peace and security, and for the implementation by member states of our economic policies, social policies to promote progress and development of our continent. This is very important for us, the fact that we are assuming the chairship of the African Union in 2025. At the time, we are also celebrating 50 years of our independence, national independence. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, throughout this conference, many issues will be discussed that are very important for our continent. The working framework of the African Union and the operationalization, the issue related to justice for African and people of African descendants to true reparations, which is the theme selected for this year, and a theme that Angola also chose for its chairship, which is related to the building infrastructure as a factor for development for Africa. These aspects, if combined, can allow us to build a communication channel and a channel of dialogue with our partners. It will make us understand the importance and the advantage of cooperating for a developed Africa, Africa that is industrialized, that is going to win over hunger, misery, and unemployment, and reducing the probability of armed conflict and illegal immigration. We will have the opportunity to address all these aspects in our fourth conference for development that is going to take place in Sevilla, in Spain, from 30th June to 4 July this year. And we believe this is a historical opportunity to redefine the rules of financing based on economic justice and inclusion, taking into account the commitments from previous conferences that were not fulfilled, especially the Monterey Consensus, Doha Declaration, and Addis Ababa Declaration. The fourth Sevilla Conference is going to address the challenges that we are faced in the funding for development and promoting the adoption of innovative solutions and more effective solutions such as fiscal justice, debt relief, climate funding, reforms in financial and global institutions, and social inclusion. These are going to deserve our attention so that we can adopt a common position that can ensure the continent to reinforce its influence in the global governance and the adoption of the cost of the debt, and for a sustainable development of our continent. The achievement of these objectives is going to create synergies that are going to promote more trade, more cultural exchange, and technology, and other aspects that are going to bring benefits for all the parts involved. We believe that in the objective that we aim for our countries, we include issues that are for priorities, especially in fundamental infrastructures, railways, roads, airports and ports, power supply stations that are essential for the industrialization of our continent and to improve the living conditions of our people. During our presidents of the African Union that we are going to assume from today, we will hope to work
together with all the members of our institutions, we're hoping to launch a plan for together with our partners, so that the African Union Commission can be able to establish the basis for infrastructure projects that are going to be undertaken in our continent. We would like to underline the contribution of Angola for the development of Africa, taking into account our superavit when it comes to energy supply, especially in this sector of energy. Given its strategic relevance that it have in the transportation of goods and in African trade between Africa and within Africa, taking into account the Lobito corridor and the Tanzanian railways that we believe are going to play a major role in connecting African countries and in promoting the trade that we want to achieve, especially under the AUC. Taking into account what I've just said, I believe that we should come up with a well-defined strategy in order to yield the benefits. And I believe that by integrating G20, it's essential in ensuring that Africa plays an active role in global decisions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the strategic lines of our presidency are aligned in general terms with the priority actions defined by our continent, especially under the acceleration of the implementation of the second 10-year implementation plan of the Agenda 2063, especially covering 2024-2034, centered in transportation infrastructure, connectivity, energy, natural resources, peace and security, agriculture, blue economy, continental integration, and African free trade area and strategic partnerships. In this framework, our major lines of our interventions of major importance is the issue of peace and security, because we believe this is one of the pillars for the materialization of the aspirations of our Agenda 2063 of the African Union, especially the program that aims at silencing the guns by 2030, by transforming Africa in a peaceful region, safe, with a promising future, with prosperity for all Africans, and in placing our continent in the development route. In the reports of our activities, the undertaken as a champion, AU champion for peace and reconciliation in Africa, I made a detailed presentation, the activities that I undertook in helping the achievement of peace in our continent, especially in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. I will also present my vision on what I believe that is essential to be taken into account in the future in order to put an end to the conflicts in Africa and in order to address the challenge of unconstitutional change of government, terrorism, invasion, and occupation of neighboring countries. We also have major challenges related to natural disaster resulting from climate changes and Marburg, cholera, and other diseases that are affecting us, and call on us to unite our efforts in order to find collective solutions for their elimination. In this perspective, I believe that it's essential that the third conference on the oceans that is going to take place in France is an opportunity for us to address the main concerns of this topic and that are affecting our continent. With more than 30 coastal countries, our continent will have to protect maritime ecosystems and promote blue economy and undertake more actions against illegal fish, maritime pollution, and against climate change, which are major challenges that we have to face together permanently. I would like to hope that this conference will contribute to reinforce our coastal resilience and building conditions to mobilize international funding for sustainable projects under the blue economy. Excellencies, this year and during the Angolan presidency, we are going to work in coordination with the African Union Commission to mobilize financial resources through the contributions of our member states in order to be able to have necessary resources for the realization of projects and programs of continental level and reducing our dependencies for external funding. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are living a global landscape, a very challenging global landscape, especially with the challenge in our continent and in Eastern Europe and Middle East. Despite all that, we are sure that by combining our efforts and joining force, we are going to overcome these challenges and build the Africa that we dream of, contributing in the solution of the problems that are affecting our humanity. It's in this context that I believe that we should continue to act together so that the United Nations will be more